What's going on, guys? So we have a bit of a controversial iPhone release, which is this guy here, the iPhone 16e. And I think it's really hard to talk about this product without looking at the past. And what I have on the table here is the iPhone 16, the iPhone 12, and the iPhone 11. Because once you see what is in the iPhone 12, I would say, it might make you reconsider even looking at the iPhone 16e. You do know what I want to look at today? Our sponsor. Nobody. So let's get these products out the way and focus on the iPhone 16e. I did get it in black. I only get the Pro models in white, but we have to give credit where credit is due, and this product was made in China. So let's go ahead and get this product here unboxed. Oh! So iPhone 16e, if you aren't aware, comes in at $600 here in the US. I'm not sure what the price tag would be in the other countries. I actually cut off the sticker there, a little peel thing. Let's go ahead and get this peeled off. So if you haven't bought a new iPhone recently, there are braided cables on the iPhone, so that's a nice touch. But focusing a little bit more on the phone itself, this is the iPhone 16e. Looks pretty good. I would say I actually like the finish on the back compared to what is on the older versions of like the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 11. But here is the stack up, right? Or I should say this is the stack up in terms of price, right? iPhone 16, iPhone 16e, iPhone 12, and iPhone 11. So this is where things get a little bit interesting, and I promise you this is not going to be a full in-depth comparison video, but I just want you guys to understand what you're actually missing by going to the iPhone 16e instead of some of the older devices that I would say net you much better value. So iPhone 16e, let's just go ahead and power it on. So powering on the device, let me talk about it super quick. So looking around the overall device, we do have the lock button, and then we have the volume buttons as well as the action button. Unlike on the iPhone 12 and iPhone 11, you still have the switch. Personally, kind of like it. It's nice to fidget with it. I actually want to move the iPhone 11 out the way. If you guys want me to do a dedicated comparison video between the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 16e, I would say that would be a little bit worth it. The iPhone 12 and the iPhone 16e is a little bit more complicated because I would say these share a lot more commonalities than people think. Now that I'm logging into all these devices, I'm just going to tell you straight up. Obviously, I'm going to have my conclusion at the end of the video, but I just want to give you guys a bit of a TLDR. I actually don't think a lot of people should buy the iPhone 16e. As a reviewer and looking at what Apple does, I do think there is cool tech in here, such as the C1 chip, but from a product and consumer standpoint, it really just doesn't make a lot of sense, and I actually don't recommend people pick up the iPhone 16e, and I'll show you why, because this is the reason why I have the iPhone 12 on the table and the iPhone 16. So let's just hop right into it. So the reason why I have the iPhone 16 is because when you go to the Apple Store, Apple is going to compare the iPhone 16 to the 16e. I think that's completely fair, right? The iPhone 16e has 16 in the name. This is the latest iPhone, and it's basically the stripped down version of what the 16 doesn't have. I'm waving both of these devices around, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying, right? So when you go to the Apple Store, it's gonna be like, hey, I'm interested in the iPhone 16e. What am I missing from the iPhone 16? Which is fair. The reason why I have the iPhone 12 on the table is because Apple's actually not going to have this in their store. They usually just have the current generation, and that's it. The reason why I have the iPhone 12 on the table is because this product came out 4 years ago, technically 5 because it's 2020, but that was at the end of the year. This product has features that the iPhone 16e doesn't have, or it's exactly the same, and that should give you a bit of context on why you shouldn't actually buy the iPhone 16e and pick up an older iPhone. I'm not saying pick up the iPhone 12. There are better iPhones out there. Like at the end of my announcement video, I said pick up something like the 15 Pro, 14 Pro, or even anything from the 14 and above, really. The iPhone 12, I'm here to show you why this product has features that the 16e doesn't have. So let's just hop right into it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the display. And I would say the display is pretty much in the order that you see in front of me. The iPhone 16 has the brightest display, even in HDR. The iPhone 16e and the iPhone 12, excuse me, are pretty similar. When it comes to HDR content, they actually both cap out at 1200 nits, but in regular use, the iPhone 16e has a higher brightness count. So in terms of everyday use, it's going to be easier to use this outdoors or in lighting conditions where it's pretty harsh. My recommendation that I always tell to my users, just pick up sunglasses on Amazon for like 15-20 bucks. Obviously, if you have like prescription glasses, that's going to be a little bit harder. But if you have those transition lenses, it's not going to matter too much about what the brightness is, especially compared to these two. But in terms of the display, contrast, and stuff like that, they're all going to be pretty much the same. But the brightness is where you're going to notice the most difference. So if you watch a lot of HDR content, so I would say if you stream like Max, Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, any of those streaming services that offer HDR content, the 16 is going to be your best bet. And then the 16E and the 12 are going to be pretty much the same. So here we are in 2025, and the display technology hasn't really shifted that much with the iPhone 16e. Obviously, the notch is going to be a big talking point. The iPhone 12 has a slightly bigger notch. Personally, as a person who uses the iPhone 13 Pro as his main device, well, has one of my main SIMs in the device, the notch really doesn't bother me in 2025. It's there. It is what it is. Whether you have a dynamic island or a notch, you're still going to have black at the top of your iPhone. So that really doesn't matter to me. Also to mention, the iPhone 16 goes down to 1 nit. Pretty impressive. One thing that I think is a pretty big miss on the iPhone 16e is MagSafe. While I don't think a lot of people use MagSafe, you can always like get a third-party accessory or case to pop it on. Having it not built into the phone seems like a very strange decision to me from Apple. For example, on the iPhone 16, I can plop on this accessory and I'm charging. The iPhone 16e, on the other hand, there's no magnets. I can obviously feel where the wireless is, but as you can see, it's charging, but it's not aligned. The iPhone 12, once again, 2020 phone, charges no problem with MagSafe. One of the major benefits of going with the iPhone 16e that people might say is you're getting the A18 Bionic chip, which is great, right? That is the same processor that is in the iPhone 16 with an asterisk. It's not exactly the same. There's one less GPU core, but to be honest, I don't think a lot of people are going to notice a difference between these two devices in everyday use. But I would argue, the A14 Bionic chip, once again, this product came out 4 years ago, with iOS being as optimized as it is and as good as processors have been by Apple, I actually don't think a lot of people are going to notice a difference between all three of these devices. Like if you were to give me these devices blind and tell me, hey, tell me the difference between them, obviously this is going to be, the notches are going to give it away. But in terms of everyday use, doing like, most first party apps, I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to tell the difference. That being said, even the iPhone 12 is being able to be updated to iOS 18. So all those features that you see are available on the iPhone 12. With an asterisk, once again, you do get Apple Intelligence and all the latest features with the iPhone 16e, but you're still missing out on some features such as, this camera control is not offered on the iPhone 16e and the functionality that Apple intends to use in the future. But in terms of software updates, you're going to have a starting point of last year up until the future, whereas the iPhone 12, it's going to cut out a little bit later, but still nice to see that we're getting updates here in 2025. Next up is the camera. The camera is a really interesting talking point because Apple has this Fusion camera. The Fusion camera is, it's like a main lens and a telephoto in one. However, going to the Apple store, even talking to Apple employees, they're actually shocked as well that there's no ultra-wide lens. And it's a lens that I'm sure Apple knows the data of people actually using this lens, I would say, more than the telephoto. Obviously, when you go to concerts, games, stuff like that, it's nice to be able to zoom in and have really good quality, but it's also nice to not have to step super far back and just pop on the ultra-wide lens and capture most of a shot. It gives you that scale of how things are when you go travel, when you go do stuff in general. No macro shots, stuff like that, and I think that's a really big miss when it comes to the Fusion camera as well as not having an ultra-wide lens. If you're able to do the fusion camera with the ultra wide, I'd say that's a big benefit. But I would say with how integral and how important the ultra wide lens is these days, it's nice to have it than to not have it. And a product, once again, that came out 4 years ago has an ultra wide lens. Come on, Apple. Now, the other thing that was making me scratch my head a lot with the iPhone 16e is the lack of an ultra wideband chip. And I know some people are going to say, who really cares about the ultra wideband? I would say if Apple's real intentions of the iPhone 16e was to have this be like a starter iPhone, get people into the Apple ecosystem, Find My and being able to just directly see where your device is actually a super underrated feature that I think should be a standard in pretty much all smartphones if you have other accessories. How it's not in the iPhone 16e, but it's in the iPhone 12 is shocking to me because I really don't think that chip is that expensive. And I think given this price tag, it should be something that should be included in this phone, right? If your intention is to get people into the Apple ecosystem, hey, they have an iPhone 16e, maybe they want to pick up a watch, pick up AirPods, pick up an iPad, maybe. But those smaller accessories using Find My, finding that stuff, even AirTags, like, come on, Apple. I really do think they dropped the ball on missing out on the ultra wideband on the iPhone 16e. $600, it's becoming harder and harder to convince people to pay that much when there are products that came out way before it that has those features. Now, one thing that is unique to the iPhone 16e that no other iPhone has is the C1 chip. If you don't know what that is, it's Apple's own in-house modem. And Apple, from what I understand, they bought a part of Intel's division to really build out their own custom in-house processor for the modem instead of using Qualcomm and Intel previously in their iPhones. But now we have an in-house solution which should be tightly coupled with the hardware and software that we have with Apple. And it should give us much better battery life. And I would say this battery life, from what Apple claims, is better than the 16. Honestly, pushing all the way up to the iPhone 16 Pro, which I would say is really impressive because as much as people like to talk about, the OnePlus having way bigger batteries, even the Samsung having bigger batteries, OnePlus using new tech in their battery and stuff like that, it's great having a big size, but it's really how you utilize it. Because if we take a quick, segue to Android, the OnePlus 13 and the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, even though the battery sizes are the same, the processor is the same, with Samsung being clocked slightly higher, the battery life is, I would say, pretty much identical. Maybe we'll get like 15, 30 minutes more on the OnePlus 13, but that just goes to show you what optimization does. And having 1,000 left and still being pretty close, I would say is much better than having a big battery life and not being as efficient. And I think that's where Apple doesn't get a lot of credit in the battery space because they aren't using massive batteries, right? When you multiply it on millions upon millions of units, right, those start to stack up. And I would say if you're using smaller batteries and you're getting just as good battery life as these others that are using, 1.5, sometimes double your battery size, I would say that's better for the environment than just having a huge battery in your phone. But I'm not here to talk about the political environment, pun intended, of what we should be using in our devices and whatnot. But it really just goes to show you how efficient Apple is trying to be with not using as much battery size as possible. So yeah, that's unique to the iPhone 16e. Even though I said that in a, I think, eloquent way, don't think that justifies buying the iPhone 16e. I'd say leave that up to reviewers and people to test that out. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up my first impressions. I usually do like the camera, display, stuff like that. But personally, I'm probably going to leave that in a dedicated comparison video. Just want to get my thoughts out there and let you guys know what you should do. Probably should mention as well, the iPhone 16 and 16e both have USB-C. So if you want USB-C on your iPhone, you're going to have to get that on the iPhone 16e. The 12 does not offer that. Unfortunately, it's still Lightning. But I would say if you are in a country where used is accessible to you, because I understand some countries the used market is just non-existent, right? If it's accessible to you, get the iPhone 15 Pro, get the iPhone 15, get the iPhone 14, 14 Pro. 14 and above, any of those devices, I would say is better than the 16e. If you truly value battery life, I would say that is probably the only reason to get the iPhone 16e in like a small form factor. Other than that, I would say do away with this product. Okay. Anyway, appreciate every single sub, like, and comment. Hopefully you guys enjoy this first impressions and unboxing. And as always, guys, much love. I don't know what I'm doing with this device, but yeah. I also want to showcase the iPhone 12 because this is a product that came out 12 years ago. Yeah, this product came out 12 years ago. What am I thinking?